So we're going to answer another question from my Q&A that I asked you guys to ask me questions, and I'm going to answer them. Hey guys, it's Morgan with BDSM Relationships and Education. Thank you very much for checking out this video. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button down below and then hit the little bell icon, and that'll turn on notifications so you know every time I post a new video. So continuing on with our Q&A, I have a question from Katrina Arispi. I'm sorry if I fucked up your name. I really suck at these things. So hopefully I got it right. Okay, so she first asked what made you get into BDSM. We talked about that in the first Q&A, so I'll link that up above. And she also wants to know any update on how you would introduce new partners to the kink life. So I think that that's a really sort of delicate thing to do. I think that we scare people easily. I did a video in the past about like basically what not to do, and I'll link that up above. It was part of my 50 Shades of Grey series, because I think that Christian's approach to introducing BDSM to Anna was like completely and utterly backwards. Like he basically fucked up everything. So you can watch that and glean from that a lot of what I would suggest, but it's easier just to watch this and then I'll tell you what I do suggest. So I would say that, you know, you need to not scare your partner, because if you're like, yeah, I'm into hardcore SM and I like, you know, pissing on each other and, you know, pony play and all this other stuff, right? Hanging from hooks or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, gang bangs, which I personally don't really consider all that kinky, but some people do. But whatever it is, then you're gonna probably scare them off. But if you approach and say, you know, don't use any like, you know, BDSM terms necessarily, and just sort of say, hey, you know, sometimes when we're getting a little frisky, I like to get spanked, or I like to spank my partner. Is that something you'd be into? Or, oh, hey, you know what might be fun is if we took turns tying each other up with this scarf, or just little like gentle sort of things like that. And it may be that you are into like hardcore SM, and this is like, you know, way too light for you, but if that's the case, you probably should just fish in the kinky pond to begin with. But let's say that you are with somebody that you really have fallen for and they're not necessarily experienced in this stuff. You know, they may get there, they may get to the hardcore SM stuff, but you know, most of us didn't just wake up and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do all this hardcore stuff right now. It took years to get there. So keep that in mind. Start slow and ease into it. Don't overwhelm people with terminology. That's just going to confuse them. Honestly, it really is. Talk about what it is you want, and try to keep it positive, right? Don't talk about what you don't want necessarily. Talk about what you do want. So if you are looking for somebody to engage in more of a DS style thing, then you could say, hey, I really like making the decisions in a relationship. I really like when my partner defers to me. Is this something that you would be interested in, either just in the bedroom or in the grander scheme of our relationship? And maybe it's best to sort of approach that in the bedroom first and then see if they're interested in expanding it. You know, of course, my big thing is that if you're like me and you know that kink is really important and you're not interested in a relationship that doesn't involve kink, then you need to get this out there very early in a relationship. Like if my partner wasn't kinky as well, if we didn't complement each other's roles, I don't think that either of us would be together. It's very important to him. It's very important to me. So it's something that neither of us were interested in relationships with people that weren't kinky. So if you are one of those people, you need to get that out there right in the beginning. So you can talk about stuff like that. I think a lot of the time it's probably easier if you kind of approach it in a way where, and I mean, that's not going to be possible for everyone, but I think it's easier if you're asking them to do stuff to you, or if you're offering to go back and forth if you're a switch. Because I find that my approach, where it's like, hey, sometimes I'd like to tie you up and beat the ever-living shit out of you, it's a little scary. And don't ever say that to somebody who's new to kink. That's just my joke of, how completely out of touch I am sometimes. But yeah, just be very gentle about it. Don't put a lot of pressure on people, because then they're just going to back away. And yeah, just generally try to be gentle about the whole thing. I've suggested before that you can attend a workshop together, if there's like a spice up your sex life kind of workshop, or a BDSM 101 in your area, or if you can just play some little games, or have a night where you want to sit down and you can talk about your different sexual fantasies. A lot of times it'll just be like a little role play, or talking about it, during sex. I wouldn't just spring it on them during sex, but like talk about it beforehand as a bit of foreplay. And, then you can have a bit of dirty talk while you're doing it. And it kind of gets them used to the idea. You don't actually have to do any of the things you're talking about, but just talk about it in a sexy way, of course. So yeah, I think that would probably be my best advice for introducing somebody new. But again, if kink is really that important to you, if you absolutely need to have it in your life, then I highly suggest you just look for people that you know are kinky right off the bat. So meet people within the kink community, or on kinky dating sites, or whatever it is. As far as travel tips go, I also did a video talking about travel and BDSM, which I will link in the cards and then in the description box. One of the things that I've learned is just figure out what you absolutely have to bring and what you can buy there, especially if you're going somewhere where stuff is cheap. So a lot of the time I'm not going to bring rope with me, because rope gets really heavy in a suitcase or a backpack or whatever, and it's bulky and whatnot, and I can go to the dollar store, the hardware store, wherever I am, and just buy some if I really need it. So and then I can leave it and I don't have to bring it home. So that is always an option. Another option is, if you are going to be going somewhere, you could look at renting a play space that is furnished with toys as well, and that way you don't have to worry about bringing your own. Plus you get like this cool new play space and these cool new toys that you can use, although some people admittedly do get a little squicked out by using toys that have been used on other people. Definitely inquire into their sanitation practices, but yeah, basically keep it simple. Don't plan really elaborate scenes unless you're going to a kink convention, and then go nuts, bring all your stuff. But if you're just sort of traveling, and kink play is something that you'd like to do along the way, like when I was in Mexico and my boy came down to visit me, I told him, I had him bring like a vibrator and a chastity cage, because those were things that I couldn't easily get my hands on in Mexico. But I was able to buy some rope and, some wooden spoons to use as, impact play implements and stuff like that, because we were backpacking and living in hostels. That would be another thing. If you're like staying in the dorm room of the hostel, first off, just don't have sex, but really don't have kinky sex. We stayed in private rooms when we knew we wanted to play. Actually, we stayed in private rooms most of the time, because it worked out about the same as getting 2 dorm beds. So, but yeah, just, use your judgment. So that's my quick advice on some traveling stuff. Yeah, just plan ahead and don't worry about being too elaborate. Maybe this is the time that you should try some role play, or some mental bondage. So you stay right there, don't move, don't you dare move. I want you to stay in this position, and then you can have some fun. So those would probably be my best travel tips. Anyways, guys, thanks very much for checking out this video, and I will see you in the next one.